Good afternoon. On behalf of the entire Santa Monica Travel and Tourism staff and our extended team, it is my honor to welcome you to our 10th Annual Tourism Summit. Yes, I cannot believe, but it's been our 10th. And as you all know, we're here to celebrate the impact that tourism industry has on our vibrant and local community. We are thrilled to be here at the gorgeous Jonathan Beach Club for this annual tradition. The sands of our iconic beach surely make for a wonderful setting to celebrate today, and I thank their team for welcoming us with open arms. Let's give the staff here a round of applause. And being the social community that we all are, if you'd like to share any, we tested and now we have the buzz. Are we good? Oh, is it because I'm on here and not using the lavalier? Okay, so it's my fault. First time speaking, sorry. Okay, if you want to share anything besides that faux pas, please post on our social media hashtag SMTT19. We're all gathered here today because, to put it quite simply, travel matters. This week is National Travel and Tourism Week, an annual tradition for the U.S. travel industry, and professionals across the country are celebrating their value that travel holds for our economy, our business, and our well-being. Travel also helps to shape the Santa Monica experience. And just what is that experience? It's something that's personal to both every visitor who graces our shore and every one of us that are here today in this room. To some, the Santa Monica experience may mean romance or new beginnings, following a proposal on the pier. To others, it may mean reconnecting with family members, crafting memories by hours spent with their toes in the sand. And to many from around the world, it may even be their first brush with the United States of America, making the start to a new life in a new country right here in Santa Monica. These are just some of the stories that we were able to gather in our recent Write It to Write It story campaign. And we urge each of you to create your own definition of what the Santa Monica experience is and share that again on our hashtag SMSummit19. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce someone who has been shaping the Santa Monica experience for more than 30 years. Please join me in giving a warm hospitality welcome to Mayor Gleam Davis.
So thank you, Misty, and good afternoon. It's wonderful to be here with you all. It's a privilege to join you in what is a quintessential Santa Monica destination, the sand. And on behalf of the council and the entire City of Santa Monica team, I want to thank you all for your critical role you play in welcoming the entire world to Santa Monica. To help frame today's program, I want to illuminate statistics that define who we are as a city and the significant role that tourism plays in making Santa Monica both a fabulous place to live and to visit. More than half, 52%, of Santa Monica's visitors in 2018 were from outside the United States, making Santa Monica a truly cosmopolitan city. We know that international visitors stay longer, spend more, and are more likely to use transportation. Most overnight visitors, 83%, enjoy walking to get around once they're here. Hotel transient occupancy tax in 2018 brought over $58 million into the city's general fund, an increase of over 7.8% over 2017. And retail sales tax generated by visitors brought over $14 million into the city's general fund, an increase of 19% over 2017. And I am going to go a little bit off script because part of our sales tax component are two taxes that this city put on itself basically in two different elections. And that sales and use tax, 0.5% of that sales and use tax goes to fund our public schools, which is really key to keeping Santa Monica a strong community. And 1/4 of that goes to funding public safety, our general fund, and another 1/4 goes to building affordable housing here in Santa Monica. So when that tax gets paid, it goes to good causes. Santa Monica's status as a vibrant destination helps fuel the 5-star services and programs that make Santa Monica among the best places to raise a family and age in place. If not for tourism, each Santa Monica homeowner would have to pay an additional $1,540 in property taxes to maintain our city services at the same level. I think that deserves a round of applause. It's been a great year of partnership. In mid-2018, the city and SMTT embarked on a brand perception study. So we wanted to get a pulse on what people think of our town, both the highlights and the challenges, and create a destination management plan that'll help all of us align how we deliver the Santa Monica experience in the very best way. Tourism plays a big role in Santa Monica's brand. It always has. And we are a welcoming and inclusive community. We want to help the visitors who come to our city experience Santa Monica at its very best. Your contribution helps us shape that brand experience, and it's clear that the impact of your work ripples throughout every aspect of Santa Monica life. Today, I understand we're going to dig a little deeper into that Santa Monica experience and learn more about how we are doing as a travel destination. I look forward to learning with you, but I want to thank you again for your continued hard work and dedication to Santa Monica. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here today and present the Jeff King Santa Monica Tourism Champion of the Year Award. This award honors an individual or organization who demonstrates creativity and leadership while fostering the positive experience of visitors and Santa Monica community pride. It is an honor and a pleasure. Before I tell you who won, I'm going to point out, because you're going to be able to guess from my bracelet. I have a Santa Monica bracelet, and two of the charms, it's hard to see from way in the back, but one is a little dangle charm with a picture of the pier, and the other is a Ferris wheel. So it's my honor and pleasure to present the Jeff King Santa Monica Tourism Champion of the Year Award to the Santa Monica Pier and Pacific Park. Please.
As you gather on stage today, we'd like to share a little bit about your recent accomplishments. Both the Santa Monica Pier and Pacific Park are emblematic of the fun our destination offers for both visitors and residents, and have served as a centerpiece for heartfelt memories over the years. The Santa Monica Pier will turn 110 in September. This community treasure is looked after and nourished by the Santa Monica Pier Corporation. 2018 was a year of big changes at the Santa Monica Pier. From new leadership to newly reimagined events, the Pier Corporation successfully ushered in a new wave of culturally significant programs. From the Wonderland by the Water holiday programming and new festival-style format of the beloved Twilight concert series to the recently announced Samo Pride celebrations, these innovative programs attract and excite the millions of people who visit the pier each year. Pacific Park, as we all know, is the family place to play on the Santa Monica Pier, offering fun for all with rides, midway games, food, and seaside shopping. The Pacific Wheel is the world's first solo-powered Ferris wheel and has quickly become an icon of its own, with light displays that celebrate the seasons and generate excitement for local events. A longtime champion of local causes, the team at Pacific Park is always eager to support community events and partner for the many initiatives that make Santa Monica such a welcoming community. Congratulations.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much, Santa Monica Travel and Tourism. Let's give them a round of applause. This is so hard to do, and they do it beautifully. My name is Nikki Singh. I'm the executive director at the Santa Monica Pier. I've been here since January of last year, so almost a year and a half. This was one of the first big events that I came to last year when I started, and I remember just thinking, like, wow, Santa Monica does it right. Shoes off in the sand, talking with each other about how we can make our destination a better place. And I know that we all in our everyday jobs can feel, especially if we're, sort of trying to work together, trying to make change happen, it can feel difficult. And that's true, it is difficult, but it's also, there's a lot of yes in this city. There's a lot of people who I've come to and gone, hey, let's do a Santa Monica Pride. And instead of, eyebrows raised and why would we do that? And that's gonna be expensive and all those things. There's a lot of people who look back and go, yeah, let's do it. What can I do? How can I help? I've got this, I've got that. And that's what really turns our work at the pier from just something that happens on a bridge in a 3-block street to something that happens citywide. I've seen the passion that this community has for programs that we do like Twilight, for programs like the Farmers Market, et cetera. And that's not something to take for granted. I feel incredibly lucky to be a part of Santa Monica. I feel incredibly lucky to call myself a West Sider now. And to be around so many people who say yes and how can I help? So thank you guys, and yay Santa Monica Pier and yay Santa Monica.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Clucky. I'm the general manager of Pacific Park. But more importantly, right now, I'm the chair of the Chamber of Commerce, and Misty didn't script me. And if you know, Richard Shocker is the chair of the SMTT, and I've owed him for about 9 months. So I wrote a 45-minute speech. If you didn't get that, I'm sorry. Just a huge thank you to Misty and the entire team at SMTT. Misty isn't just a partner in the city. She's an inspiration and a mentor. She cares about all of us. She cares about the park. She's a dear friend of myself and the previous owner at Pacific Parks. Thank you, Misty, for this award. Real quickly, a big shout out to our team. Nathan, Kristen, and Jill are in the audience, but we have 500 team members that make Pacific Park safe and wonderful every day. I've been in the community for 20 years before Nagin was born, and I literally love this community. It can be a challenge at times, but there's nowhere better to be in the world. So thank you for the award. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Richard Shocker to the stage, owner of Perry's on the Beach and chair of our board of directors, and Laurel Rosen, president and CEO of the Santa Monica Chamber of Commerce, to the stage for our next award.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And you can rely on Jeff and Nagin to go too long always.
I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to
No, okay. So, thanks, Misty. I'm glad to be here today at my favorite place, the beach. We are proud to announce the winner of this year's Thelma Park Spirit Award, a collaboration between SMTT and the Santa Monica Chamber of Commerce. Each year, in the spirit of Thelma Parks, we recognize our local employees, servers, sales reps, clerks, taxi drivers, front desk agents, and many others who go out of their way to make our experience here the best it can be in Santa Monica. And with that, I'll turn it over to Laurel.
Wow, he stayed on script.
I have another one to go.
Yeah.
And honestly, how good does he look in that suit? So, hi everyone. So, it's always a pleasure to give this award with Misty and our partners, and now with Richard. And this award is named Thelma Park. She was a really passionate member of our community, a really lovely woman who passed away in January 2011. And after serving the tourism industry for 23 years with her work with Santa Monica Travel and Tourism, a real legacy. So Thelma was a really delightful woman, and everyone who knew her can testify that she gave extraordinary care to everyone who came across her path. And one of the things she used to say, she would say that having found myself a tourist many times, I enjoy putting the visitor first. So it's my pleasure to turn it over to Misty for the Thelma Parks Award nominee coming up.
So we are so pleased and wish her all of the best, but please join me in welcoming this year's recipient, Barbara Moss, to the stage.
Barbara Moss has been the banquet manager at the Fairmont Miramar Hotel and Bungalows for almost 30 years, where she plans, orchestrates, and executes the operational end of convention and social events. She strives to make people happy, always appreciating being able to make someone's dreams come true. Barbara was born in Los Angeles, and 3 days later, her mom brought her home to Santa Monica, where she lived for the first 14 years of her life on 17th and Pico. Barbara will be receiving a $1,000 scholarship and Santa Monica staycation, complete with a stay at Hotel Casa del Mar and a meal at the Lobster. Barbara, congratulations, and we welcome you to say a few words.
The podium's yours, my dear. Can we hold those?
Thank you so much. This is such a complete surprise and such a joy to be able to receive something like this. Just thank you, everybody, and my mom would be so proud. Thank you so much.
And we're proud of you. Thank you so much. Barbara is one of those special people in our community, and I hope that when you're at the Fairmont, you'll give her a shout out in the future. Thank you, Laurel, for being here today as well. And it is supportive community members that make our hospitality industry truly world-class. And speaking of a world-class community member, I turn to you, Richard Shocker. It has been such an honor to have you on our board for 8 years, and we're sad to see your chairmanship end. But we know you're not going anywhere, so we're thrilled about that. Please accept, we're not going to give it to you now because it's huge. Kim, just hold it up. It's this huge vase. We'll get a picture with you later.
Not an urn, is it? Come on. Come on.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm just going to turn it over to Richard.
Well, thank you, Misty. And as she requests that we refer to her in our board meetings as the Queen, I want to say a quick comment on Misty. Misty is clearly a leader. She's intelligent. She's a very bright woman. She's indefatigable in her work ethic. The staff, like the rest of the board, really reveres you, and it's been a pleasure to serve with you these 8 years. I've learned a tremendous amount about hospitality and how to conduct myself on some level as well. So with that being said, I'd like to acknowledge our board of directors that are here from SMTT. If you'd be kind enough to stand up, please, and give them a round of applause. Because they put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to make SMTT what it is today. Okay, where am I on script? So with hospitality in mind, you know, we're all ambassadors for our community. And Perry's, I've taught my employees to be an ambassador with everyone they run across, tourism, local, et cetera. And it's incumbent on us to give the visitor the best possible experience they can have. So they in turn turn around and they take that experience back to wherever they are. And of course, we build on that. And that's been part of our mantra and our mission at SMTT. Now, I want to say something, a little bit of a surprise. You're not going to get rid of me quite that easily. So don't get too giddy about those who like to see me go, because I'm now going to be running for city manager's office. And Rick has endorsed me, and I want to thank you for that, Rick. And so... you earned it. So free parking. Year-round, and again, I bid you adieu, and we'll see you at the beach.
The number of other anniversaries that our city is celebrating this year. Businesses that we know and love, businesses that positively contribute to the Santa Monica experience, and many that were celebrated last night at the Buy Local Most Loved Awards. This September, our biggest icon of all, the Santa Monica Pier, will turn 110. And the list continues. Santa Monica College, 90 years. The Aero Theater and Hotel Shangri-La, 80 years. Shay J's, 60 years. Michael's, 40 years. 3rd Street Promenade, 30 years. And Kathleen, we are all looking forward to Promenade 3.0, which promises to reimagine this space for the future. 18th Street Arts Center, 30 years. Bergamot Station, 25 years. The Lobster, under their current ownership, 20 years. And Annenberg Community Beach House and Buy Local Santa Monica are both a decade old, 10 years. This may not be all. Yes, let's give them all a round of applause. If we haven't mentioned you and you're celebrating an anniversary, please let us know, because we'll continue that list and we'd like to celebrate with you.
In addition to these well-loved attractions, we are also looking forward to welcoming some new experiences this year. This summer, the 21,000 square foot Caton Children's Museum will open at Santa Monica Place. In just a short while, Santa Monica will also welcome its 41st accommodation offering, the Proper Hotel, Santa Monica's newest luxury hotel. I see you. And meanwhile, the Oceana is reopening with a fresh take on luxury accommodation following a $25 million renovation. And speaking of new experiences, did you know that Santa Monica has over 120 street art murals in a very compact 8.3 square miles? Well, we did, because SMTT created the first comprehensive street art mural guide, which can be found at santamonica.com/streetart. We encourage you to share it with your customers and on your social channels and help our visitors enjoy that experience in our community. We pass by these popular attractions, hotels, and eateries every day and may not even think about how they support our community. But in reality, they form the backbone of Santa Monica, defining our community on a global level, attracting visitors from all over the world, providing our families with jobs, and giving a lifetime of memories to both residents and tourists alike.
Travel matters, and it improves Santa Monica in ways that have a wide-reaching impact on those of us that are local residents. In 2018, we supported nearly 13,000 jobs in our community. These are jobs, again, that cannot be exported. It also has an impact that we don't always see. Travel can strengthen families, foster hometown pride, and build bridges that connect us to one another. Santa Monica is fortunate to boast a thriving and sustainable economy, and tourism continues to be one of the most significant local contributors to this fact. I am so pleased again, and I know that Mayor shared it, but it's worth repeating, $1.93 billion has been injected into the city's budget. These dollars directly fund essential city services that make Santa Monica such a fantastic place to live, work, and play, such as, and I'm going to ask you to stand, Chief, for now, exceptional police and fire departments. Our school systems, our beach and park maintenance, and our very needed homeless services.
And I know Mayor Davis said these statistics so eloquently earlier, but let's revisit them again. In 2018, hotel tax revenue from the transient occupancy tax was more than $58 million, a 7.8% increase year over year. And that retail sales tax from visitor spending injected an additional $14.5 million into our economy, an impressive 19% increase. The role that visitors play in helping our small businesses stay afloat and our economy thrive can truly not be understated. Think about it. Our visitors, when they're in their cities, they lead very busy lives just like we all do, and they take the shortcuts like ordering on big websites and using apps to have food delivered. But when they're here in Santa Monica on vacation, they're experiencing our attractions, they're coming into those brick and mortar retail stores, and they're dining in our restaurants.
This impact is something we cannot take for granted. We have to be conscious of the Santa Monica experience to ensure its longevity today and tomorrow. We must reflect, think deeply, and ask ourselves the really hard questions. Turn the destination inside and out with vision setting to make sure that the Santa Monica experience continues to innovate and grow to exceed the expectation of first ourselves and then to our visitors. As a first step in providing a vision for the destination experience that we all strive to create for residents and visitors, this past year we conducted a destination perception study in partnership with the city. This study assessed the current landscape of our city's reputation as a destination, both locally and globally.
We analyzed 7.8 million conversations on social media sites from 2015 to 2018, conducted over 3,000 surveys among residents and potential visitors, performed focus groups in 6 international target countries, and interviewed 35 community stakeholders to determine the insights that, if addressed now, can help refine and optimize the success of the Santa Monica experience to ensure long-term economic sustainability. The findings from this study centered around 4 major insights. 1, the pier and the beach are our primary assets, but their value to the Santa Monica destination brand may be at risk. Number 2, visitors love Santa Monica's luxury accommodations, but this positive perception may be at risk. Number 3, negative perceptions of homelessness, safety, and cleanliness, collectively termed community livability concerns, threaten positive brand perception. And finally, the high costs of living in and running a business in Santa Monica are changing the vibe of the community.
This year, we will take the next step to address the results of the study with the Santa Monica Experience Management Plan. We look forward to continuing to work with each and every one of you in this room and in this creative and lively community to carry out our beloved city's reputation well into the future. We've been talking quite a bit about Santa Monica today, as we should, but it's time for us to take a wider look at the state of California. For further insights into the impact of tourism on our home state, Carolyn Patetta, President and CEO of Visit California, is with us again today.
I guess it's National Travel and Tourism Week, and thanks, Misty, Richard, Mayor Davis. I so appreciate it. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're continuing to create desire for the California experience. But honestly, listening to the program, I think I can sum it up into one word, and that word is sand. Oh my gosh, I'm sitting there like in nirvana, rubbing the sand through my feet, like only in California, right? I mean, it's amazing. And to do a keynote without shoes on, I hope somebody gets a picture of this. Only in California again. Did you want that again? Point my toe. Woo! And thank God Mayor Davis did not have her shoes on. I was now looking at the fashion protocols of who's coming up on stage with or without shoes. So thank you for not donning your shoes as well, because I think we're standing alone right now. But I did have heels on. Misty said, "Do you have heels?" I'm like, "Not anymore." So anyway, it's great. And boy, doesn't that put you in a California state of mind for sure, and incredible inspiration. And that's really what we're here to talk about today. And on behalf of the over 18,000 business investors now that are all part of this program, our board of directors that are guiding this program, many of which definitely have leadership representation right here on the west side, Los Angeles, Santa Monica. And of course, I love the award in honor of Jeff King, who sat on our board, our dearly beloved. Just incredible. Misty, a great leader, sits on our DMO CEO Council, obviously very active in our programs. It's that participation that truly does shape our programs. I think the best news I can deliver also is thanks to our friends, our rental car partners, who are investing well over 50% of the overall $120 million global program of work. Your investment is highly leveraged and highly efficient. So I've got a few headlines today. We're going to talk a little bit about why travel matters, as well as the economic impacts and how we're looking at an engine going forward, and of course, how we're marketing and positioning California on the horizon. But I do want to just note that not only is it National Travel and Tourism Week, May is California Tourism Month, proclaimed by the California legislature 2 years ago, which is a big deal. So we're really trying to broaden that message. You all do such a world-class job of marketing your destination, your product, your service, and we need to continue to step up how we are marketing and positioning this industry on a multitude of fronts. In terms of what the benefits are to the community, as well as even marketing the industry to prospective students that are going into the professional workforce, and encouraging them to be part of the hospitality industry. There's so much we can do. One of the things that we're doing that's rolling out next week is right next to the governor's office in the state capitol is going to be a 60-foot wide mural on why travel matters. And that's juxtaposed not only to the two doors that go right into the governor's office, but all of the county exhibits in the state capitol. Why do you care here in Sacramento or in Santa Monica? Well, every single legislator pours through those two doors all day long. The media pours through those doors all day long. Business influencers, major public officials. It is a portal to what is happening throughout what's the fifth largest economy in the world, California. So great, rich environment to continue to get out the word and for us to do our job to point to why travel matters. So as I mentioned, 3 headlines. We'll talk a little bit about economic impact. We talked about why travel matters and a little highlights on what we're doing to promote California and really our partnership with Misty, her team, and all of you in Santa Monica. The great news is tourism is booming, and I think you're seeing that realization here, right here in Santa Monica. And it's just incredible, not only just in terms of gross sales, but really, again, that positioning of California tourism and really what it means. And for those that we're really communicating to externally outside the industry, we really want them to understand that while we're omnipresent everywhere, people need to start to see us as a very, very critical industry sector. And we're actually cataloged as an export because of all the foreign visitors that come in. They actually use foreign currency and then they go home. We're now California's top export, as you can see here, by a long shot. Agricultural next, and then several other sectors. So again, another way to kind of get traction, tap people on the shoulder, and get their attention on how important we are, not only from a statewide perspective, but also each and every community, as Misty was pointing out. We just released our numbers on Monday. We did a whole media conference, and visitors now have topped $140 billion in spending in California. It's absolutely huge. It's actually bigger than the entire GDP of Hawaii and Montana combined. It's bigger than 2/3 of countries' GDPs throughout the world. It's absolutely huge what's happening with the visitor in terms of injecting incredible amount of currency into our economy and really creating a foundational opportunity for all of us to thrive in California. It represents 9 consecutive years of record-breaking growth, and it's really putting Californians to work. 1.2 million Californians are directly employed now in the travel and tourism industry. Great jobs that can't be automated or outsourced, frankly. And we grew by about 19,000 jobs year over year. Total revenue, $11.8 billion in state and local tax revenue. Absolutely huge. When you kind of deconstruct that, each household in California is paying $890 less a year in taxes because of the tax revenue that's coming in. So incredibly powerful. And tourism is truly powering California, and I'm most passionate about helping you guys get that word out. At the same time, we need to look at balance and make sure that we see tourism as a renewable resource. So we have launched a plan to create a sustainability framework on behalf of all of California. We'll be delivering some of those first tools to the media and travel trade coming up next month at IPW that's taking place in Orange County. But again, we need to be able to balance what's right community by community, seasonality, and really be focused on top tier spenders, luxury ideal, and making sure that everybody in the community actually is benefiting from this incredibly rich and relevant sector. We've also launched a brand new website called TravelMattersCA.com. So if you're interested in more statistics and digging a little deeper, TravelMattersCA.com is the place to be in terms of responsible travel, jobs, economic impact, and everything else, both on a statewide as well as a local level. So as I said, even with major products, Apple computers, Coca-Cola, they're number one in their category, but they don't just stop promoting. And it's no different with California or Santa Monica. It's critical in this environment to always maintain top of mind awareness. We're like we're like any other retail product in terms of a destination, and the competition is more fierce than it ever has been in the past. So I'm going to take you through some of our highlights. We usually break this down what we call a POET strategy: paid, own, earned, and trade and partnerships. And we'll start with kind of really where we fit into what we call the tourism funnel and our relationship with Santa Monica Tourism and all of you. And basically, our job is to create inspiration and top-of-mind awareness and basically get people thinking about California and into that funnel. So we sit at the inspiration level, and we can do that most effectively by reaching the consumer directly. And then as they start to be courted and make a decision on California, we're also doing a handoff at the same time as they're looking at more inspiration and planning to Santa Monica Travel and Tourism. And then all of you, which have the hardest job, is actually the transaction and really delivering on the big dream, the Dream Big experience And hopefully we're looking at repeat travel as well as sharing with friends and family. So that's how we work, is trying to create a very positive and rich business environment, which means reaching the consumer directly globally and casting that net far and wide so that Santa Monica Travel and Tourism's resources are highly efficient and really focused on bringing them into this community as well as working with all of you. Our global investments span 13 markets, reaching about 87% of all international inbound travelers. About 60% of our budget spent internationally. And really, they stay longer, spend more, and really that value proposition of doing what the industry can't do for itself really resides in our long-haul markets as well as our international markets. We have segmentation around Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 markets. Our Tier 1 markets, we're spending very robustly against the consumer. Again, another expensive proposition. Tier 2, we're doing that through our airline partnerships and other partnerships, not pure brand necessarily. And Tier 3, we're using earn, digital, media to reach the consumer, but really the prevalence is around our travel trade partnerships. But all told, we're running a 24/7, always-on strategy globally, again, so that your dollars are most efficient, given that we're trying to drive demand for California. So that starts with predominantly our strategic platform, our brand advertising. It comes in two key content pieces in several languages, specifically Spanish and Mandarin. And we start with a mainstream spot, speaking about California, the experience, our unique culture, something that can't be replicated by anyone or any destination in the world. And then a heavy focus on the family market, very important. They spend about $112 billion a year in the United States, and we actually have 42% of our overall market in the family market. It's important here, and we've heard from all of our investors that it's important to equally invest in family because it's almost 50% of our overall market.
My name is Peter Kageyama, and I am here today to talk to you about your city. Of course, we're here all to think and to talk about industry, but at heart, we are talking about our city, our place. I'm going to start today with a story, and this story begins in Durham, North Carolina. It's March 2011, and there's a wedding in Durham. And like most weddings, there's brides and grooms and flowers and tuxedos. There's cake. However, unlike most weddings, there are 1,600 brides and grooms, and they're not marrying each other. They're marrying the city of Durham. In what they described as the largest civic union in history, these 1,600 people got up in front of their friends and neighbors, and they pledged their oath of love and loyalty to the city. And the oath included things like a promise to keep the streets clean and safe, buy local, protect the environment, vote responsibly. Very cool. Now, this sounds like something that a Chamber of Commerce might have been behind, or maybe the city themselves. But no, this story actually begins with one woman. And the story goes, this woman really loves Durham. And apparently someone once snarkily said to her, it's like, well, if you love it so much, why don't you marry it? Okay, hey, good idea. Hence, Mary Durham is born. What Mary Durham really underscores to me is this fundamental fact, is that we are actually in a relationship with our places. But when was the last time you stopped and thought about that relationship? You know, we have these highly examined personal and professional relationships. We spend lots of time grinding on those. But when was the last time you stopped and thought about the relationship you have with your place? Probably not often, if ever. And an unexamined relationship, it can go stale, it can go bad. So let's first recognize that we are in a relationship with our place, and then let's start maybe modeling our behavior a little bit differently. Because a relationship implies a two-way street. It's not just about what our cities, what our places do for us. It's what we, as the people who live in a place, it's what we do for those places as well. And again, two-way conversation. Now, I am known as the city love guy. So I go around the world talking to people about their cities and talking about what they love about their places. And so I ask that question, do you love your city? And, you know, usually people who come out and hear a guy who's written a couple books about loving their cities, yeah, chances are they do love their city. And I suspect all of you do love this city. That's sort of why you're here. And if you don't actually love this city, it is certainly in your professional interest to fake it really well. Okay, there. And again, we would like to believe that loving our city is a commonly held notion. And I suspect in this room that is true. But the sad truth is that not nearly enough of us actually love our places. So it is on us. Those of us who do love a place, we need to be the emotional standard bearers and carry that message of love out there and help our fellow citizens see and feel the city the way that we do. Because remember this, emotions are contagious. You smile, I smile. You cry, I feel bad. When more people start saying they love Santa Monica, more people are going to see it, more people are going to feel it, more people are going to believe it. And maybe we can create that virtuous cycle where, good things compound upon good things, and people are going to say, hey, have you been to Santa Monica lately? And go, yeah, there's something going on. And you can literally feel it. Now, unfortunately, most people's relationship with their place is not nearly as deep, as nuanced, as well thought out as that. And in fact, most people's relationship with their place can actually be summarized by one thing. It's actually the pothole. Now, none of us like potholes, right? And we as people who live in a place, we will complain to our leaders to fix potholes, and our leaders will eventually get around to fixing those potholes. And it is this ongoing song and dance. I can tell you this, we fix every pothole in Santa Monica, fix every pothole in California. And we, the collective citizens, would yawn, stretch, and say, thanks, roads don't suck quite so bad. There is no love for fixing potholes. There is no emotional return on investment for fixing potholes. Not to say we're going to stop fixing the potholes, but I think we can agree that we should aspire to something more. Now here's the tricky part. We as the people who live in a place, we know to ask for our leaders to fix the potholes, right? It's pretty obvious. Hey, there's a hole in the road, my car's going to fall into it, somebody really ought to fix that. But our citizens, we don't necessarily know how to ask for other things. Things like beauty and art and great design. That is not in the lexicon of most people. So we as the thought leaders in a place not only have to listen to what our fellows are going to ask for, and of course they're going to ask for the most basic things. Hey, fix the potholes. Make sure the police and fire service arrive if I ever need them. But at heart, we know they want something more. And after we've given it to them, they're going to say, man, how the heck did I ever live without this stuff? So as we're building this better place, this better city, we need to meet some minimum threshold requirements. To be a working city, you have to be functional and you have to be safe, right? Now, when city budgets get tight, and city budgets always cyclically get tight, there's going to be somebody who's going to say, you know what? Money's tight. Let's make it functional. Let's make it safe. We paint it battleship gray. We kick it out the door, and that's good enough. No, I don't think so. I don't think even the most fiscally conservative tax hawks amongst us want to live in a merely functional, safe, and battleship gray community, okay? So what could we aspire to in our places? What should we aspire to in our places? Well, how about comfort? Why can't our city be comfortable? How about convivial in the sense that our city actually helps facilitate bringing us together and connecting us with each other? Why isn't our city interesting? And maybe even more appropriately, why isn't our city fun? Where's the fun is a perfectly legitimate question that we should be asking a whole heck of a lot more in the context of better placemaking. Now think about this. All of us have been involved in some meeting back at the office where we're there with our team wrestling with some big hairy problem down there in the weeds, right? Those meetings suck. Maybe you're here today to avoid that meeting back at the office. Good on you. But inevitably, we will get pulled into that meeting. And the next time we find ourselves in that meeting, it'd be very interesting if one of you would raise your hand and say, okay, I see what we're doing here, but I got to ask, where's the fun? Because when you ask that question, you actually change the dynamic in the room and the way people are fundamentally thinking about the problem. You'll ask, where's the fun? And someone might actually look up from their phone. They might smile a little bit and go, hey, yeah, where is the fun? And in that moment, you've opened up the door to the possibility of something beyond a merely technically sufficient solution. Where's the fun? Great question to ask. And think about this. All of us have been involved in all kinds of projects that have all kinds of requirements and specifications, right? When was the last time you ever saw fun as a stated, articulated goal of any project you've ever worked on? Even a project which, say, by its very nature, should be fun. A park, a playground, something like that. You know, there's all kinds of environmental, structural, insurance requirements. Not one mentions the word fun. Well, why not? Why not at least put that out there? And maybe somebody who's in charge of delivering that solution, they might have a pretty good idea how to make that fun in the context of that particular problem if we at least plant the seed and the hope and maybe even the expectation of something beyond a merely technically sufficient solution. Where's the fun? And I suspect travel and tourism should absolutely be leading in terms of this question of where's the fun. All right, so the things that I write about and the things that people tell me that they love about their places are relatively small things, I think. In the context of most places, small, intimate, kind of personal. And in my books, I liken them to the idea of a handwritten note that goes with the gift, right? And those of us who've ever given, this is not my remote. I accidentally hit the trigger. Those of us who've ever given a gift to a significant other and forgotten to give a card or a note with that gift, well, we've learned that is a mistake, right? Because that card, that note means something. So as we take a moment, we make it personal, we make it special. And that small gesture has an outsized impact in the way that person is going to feel about the gift, by extension, the way they're going to feel about us. Small thing, outsized impact. A love note, if you will. And these love notes are things that cities will give to their people, and if cities are very lucky, the people might actually feel inclined to give back to their places as well. I've got a few examples here for you. So this is a very small love note. This is Mill Ends Park in Portland, Oregon, and according to Guinness, it is actually the world's smallest official city park. And it's not much bigger than a planter, right? But for over 60 years, their parks department has taken great pride and great pleasure in maintaining this little park and dressing it up and theming it and making it into this really wonderful little moment. It's like, oh, that's so cool. Definitely a love note. Something a little bit bigger. The Lawn on D in Boston, Massachusetts. Now, adjacent to their convention center, about 4 years ago, they're trying to figure out how to activate this downtown, this open green space. And their solution was, for lack of a better description, to create an adult playground, right? So what they did is they brought in like those comfy Adirondack chairs, the kind you can pick up, move all around. Then they brought in swings, but not just any kind of swings. They brought in the adult-sized swings. Because, hey, why should kids have all the fun, right? And then they started to program the heck out of that space. So now there's yoga classes, there's Zumba, there's beer gardens, there's wine tastings, there's all kinds of stuff, including giant Jenga and cornhole, right? By the way, we do know that giant Jenga is actually a spectator sport, because when it stops, it starts to tilt, you will stop and you will watch, and then when it goes over, you will applaud, right? Now, I think this is also kind of genius where they put this. This is adjacent to their convention center. Think about how many conventioneers cycle through that convention center every week. Hundreds, thousands of them. And every one of them is going to look out that window and go, that looks so much more entertaining than the tax class I'm supposed to be at over here, right? And eventually they will find their way out onto the lawn, and that's a beautiful thing. If you're a local, you love knowing this is happening in your downtown. And again, in the context of Boston, this is a pretty small thing, but I suspect it will have a very big outsized impact in the way you're going to see and feel about your city as a whole. Now, I did note yesterday as I was walking around that in the experiment there in downtown Santa Monica, you've taken this idea of cornhole, again, experiential kind of stuff, and giant Jenga, of course. And the whole idea there is to get people to stop and play, to have a moment where you're going to do something a little bit different. It's like I came down here to shop and to walk around, but hey, this looks cool, this looks fun. Where's the fun? Well, there's a great example of that. To try to get people to come down and do something a little bit different, to break through, that other, that mindset that we have there. So this is really well done. And by the way, I have to say that the Chia Pet dinosaurs, I love them. So yeah, very well done there. Definitely a love note, definitely memorable. Now, of course, when you're talking about love notes here in Santa Monica, I think most conversations would probably start again with the pier. And obviously the fact that the pier received the award here earlier today, very well deserved. But when I think about the pier, and we walked around there, I think it's not necessarily the pier as a whole, but it is those small moments within the context of the pier. Those are the things that really make it very special, right? It's like when you go to the top of the Ferris wheel there and you look around and you have that moment, you get that different perspective, that different view. That's the moment. That's the thing that we love about that little bit of an experience. Or how about when you take your kids or your grandkids to the carousel? Maybe that's something that you did as a child as well, and you're having that moment of reflection there. And again, within the context of that larger pier, it is that small thing that I think anchors us in that experience. Or this one. Now, I understand that the technical end of Route 66 is actually not at the end of the pier, but as was described to me yesterday, it is the romantic end of the pier. I think that's brilliant, right? That's where you came and you stopped and dipped your toe in the sand, you parked there, the romantic end of Route 66. Yeah, that's really cool. So again, it's that moment. So that kind of signage obviously gets a lot of play. And then I, of course, walked down there and had to see, the original Muscle Beach. And lots of people are going to take those pictures, right, there. And I did note this, because I was a fan and I looked this stuff up. The sign, I think, the sign needs a little love. Anybody from the city might think about that. Because think about how many people are taking a picture of that sign every day, right? And we'd like this to represent a little bit better. And this got me thinking as I was down there. And I understand that, the history of Muscle Beach and how that sort of moved, to Venice, and they own that there. But you guys own the history. You guys own the origins of that. And I think what was kind of interesting is that Muscle Beach, it's kind of an odd bird. They've actually taken this whole idea of gym narcissism and turned it into a tourist attraction, right? Okay, I get that. I was reading about this, and one writer described it as the most uncomfortable tourist attraction they've ever been to, right? Because am I supposed to look? Am I supposed to take a photo? Am I supposed to applaud? I don't know. So again, let them own that. You guys own the history there. And when I was down there, it got me thinking about an experience I had in Hawaii earlier this year. The Duke Kahanamoku statue that was there. And what I found out as I was doing a little bit more research yesterday is I found out that Duke has a connection here in Santa Monica. Apparently he brought beach volleyball, at least according to Wikipedia, he brought beach volleyball to Santa Monica. So there is this interesting connection. But the Duke Kahanamoku statue there in Waikiki is a gorgeous statue, a photo op, of course. But what they did was actually also very smart, is they made a little park around it where the people can sit and watch other people. Now that's kind of brilliant there, because again, tourists, are going to go and take pictures. Locals are going to go and sit. And as human beings, we're endlessly fascinated with watching each other, there. So people watching is a great way to think about how do we increase, the overall usage and utility in this? Let's increase the people watching. And again, it got me thinking about this space. Now, you guys again own the history of sort of Muscle Beach. So instead of, the Duke Kahanamoku statue, what if we were looking at something like, you guys know, Vic Tanny, Jack LaLanne, Joe Gold? Millennials, ask your parents about those names. Yeah, there. But those were some of the founding fathers of the modern fitness movement there. Now, a statue there certainly would pay that off and would own the history of this in a different way. Great. Let Venice have the current Muscle Beach in its current incarnation. You guys can own the history. And I think there's maybe something to be said for that there as well. So, and then build a better park around that where people can sit and watch each other. Something to think about, an opportunity. Murals are love notes. I love a good mural. This is from downtown St. Petersburg, Florida, where I live. Nikola Tesla, very cool. And then, of course, we were talking about the murals here earlier today. This one here in town and a whole host of other murals. You guys have done a fantastic job of painting the city. And most of us love a good mural. We look at it, we appreciate it there. But I'll tell you this, I can't paint. Most of us probably can't paint. So there's what I would call an emotional distance between me and the mural. I look at it, I appreciate it, but that's about the extent of the relationship, right? So some folks in Ludington, Michigan figured something out. Ludington is on the west coast of Michigan. So you know how people from Michigan hold up the mitten, right? They go, so where are you from? They go, over here on the knuckle. They're halfway up there on Lake Michigan. So about 4 summers ago, they had this ugly downtown wall. And what they did is they commissioned an artist to come in and do sort of a paint by numbers outline on the wall. And then over one weekend, they invited the entire community to come down, grab a number, grab a bucket of paint, go paint your number. And the result was this. Now, as art goes, it's not high art, but it is highly interactive public art. It's the kind of public art people are going to point to and say, hey, I helped paint that. And we feel very differently about something we have had a hand in the making of. So maybe one of the things we ought to be thinking about here is how do we allow more of our fellow residents to roll up their sleeves and get a little dirty, to be part of the process? Because I guarantee you that it will change the way they feel about the outcome in a very positive sort of way. And I know this can make city managers and risk managers and city attorneys a little bit nervous, but we can figure this stuff out. Because again, it's not about eliminating risk, it's about managing risk. And I think this would be a great sort of outcome there, to allow people to get in the game and get a little dirty. Dog parks are love notes, absolutely. With apologies to those of you who own cats and birds and fish and ferrets. You don't walk your cat. And if you do, people think you're a little odd, right? No, we walk our dogs. And when we walk our dogs, we're actually out there using green space, interacting with the environment, interacting with each other, creating this sense of activity. There's something going on, right? And dog parks are social. People talk to each other at the dog park, right? Now, they may not know your name, but they know your dog's name. And eventually they'll get around to learning your name as well. And that's a little bit of social capital that didn't exist before, is because the dog has essentially broken the ice and negotiated that encounter for you. Very cool. Side benefit. In a time when we still probably can't afford more police, more surveillance, and more security in all of our neighborhoods, the dogs and the dog owners provide a sense of safety. And it's not because people have to own an attack dog or anything like that, but the fact is that we dog owners are out there at all hours of the day and night walking our dogs, creating what Jane Jacobs, the great urbanist, called the eyes of strangers on the street. There's nothing worse than walking down a completely empty street, right? We feel very exposed by that. But hey, if there's a dog and a dog walker out there, it's all good. So maybe there's some neighborhoods around Santa Monica we'd like to see get better. Maybe it's as simple as a little dog park. Maybe it's even simpler. It's one of those mitts in a stand and a place to throw the poop that basically says dogs are welcome here. It's amazing to me how dogs in cities humanize cities for the better. And a little side note about dogs as well. I'm actually writing about dogs again in my next book. In my research, I've come across this interesting fact that there are a growing number of cities in the US and around the world where dogs now outnumber children in cities. Think about that, right? Think about how much of our cities and how much of our public policy is built around this idea of, parents and children, right? But now dogs are starting to outpace, ownership is starting to outpace children. Now, this isn't to say we're going to stop building for children, but maybe we start thinking about we're building for other things as well. And all of you who are in the hospitality industry have probably seen this, that a lot more people are showing up or wanting to travel with their dogs, right? And then, have you been to the airports lately and seen all the service dogs that are out there? Or, Home Depot on the weekend? Yeah, there's tons more people wanting to have a different relationship with their dogs. This is part of the accommodation that we're going to have to be thinking about there, right? Before, you used to have to have a pool, then it was a fitness center. Now, maybe you need that dog park or the dog run, or certainly to be pet friendly there as well. But it shows the changing attitudes, especially amongst millennials. And everybody's after the millennials, right? Well, we want to bring them here. We want to get them to come here as tourists. We want to get them to move here, become residents. We want, economic development. Part of their lifestyle is they love their dogs. In fact, study after study shows that millennials treat dogs as starter children, right? So think about that. So yeah, definitely dog infrastructure. This is an interesting love note. Walk Raleigh. So in January of 2012, a graduate student by the name of Matt Tomasulo spent a weekend hanging up a bunch of signs in downtown Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, unlike most signs, which are usually all about cars and traffic, these were signs that were all about people and walking. And I interviewed Matt for my second book, and I asked him about this. He goes, well, the whole idea behind this project was to get people to consider the option of walking. Because let's face it, most people will reflexively get in their cars even to go just a few blocks, just out of habit, right? But hey, if you knew it was an 18-minute walk, 7-minute walk, 10-minute walk, something like that, yeah, let's go for a walk. Yeah, my doctor says I need to get more exercise, and hey, my Fitbit's telling me I need to get more steps. Cool, let's go for a walk. So again, trying to start a conversation about the merits of walking in his city, and he did. Press coverage around this was universally positive. In fact, it was so good that a couple weeks after the signs went up, a BBC film crew showed up because they'd heard Americans had discovered walking in cities. Like, hey, cool. All good, right? Well, about a month after the signs went up, someone from the local newspaper contacted the city's planning director and says, excuse me, it appears no one ever had permission to put up these signs. Would you care to comment? And he said, yeah, thanks. Now I got to take the signs down. Because, yeah, technically no one did have permission to put up those signs. So they did take the signs down, but the city was a big fan of the signs. And within a matter of days, they brought the signs back under the auspices of a pilot project, even bigger and better than before. What this project really underscores to me is this fundamental fact, is that sometimes somebody's got to break the rules in order to get us to the place we know we actually want to be. Now, I'm a lawyer by training. One of the things I remember from law school is there's the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And in between the two, there is a tension. And in that tension, the law evolves. Of course, in our cities, there's the rules and the code and the regulations, right? But then there's the goal. And the goal should be a better, more interesting, more lovable city. Well, sometimes our rules and regulations don't allow us to get there, or they don't allow us to get there in the most expeditious way possible. And sometimes you need somebody who's willing to step outside the system to help unjam the system to, again, get us a place we know we actually want to be. Now, I talk all the time to mayors and city managers and all the official folks like that. And I get that maybe it's not the best thing for the mayor to be seen as breaking the rules. Because somebody's going to say, well, if the mayor's breaking that rule, I wonder what other rules the mayor is breaking. And who wants to invite that kind of scrutiny? I totally get that. So, okay, so maybe if you're in that position where you can't be that rule breaker and risk taker, then you know what you can do? You can have the backs of those who do. Because when somebody is doing something like this, they're absolutely performing a public service. You know, if Matt was in the sign selling business, this would have been received very differently, but he's not. He's trying to start a conversation about walking in his city, trying to do something positive for his city. Now, you know who are very good rule breakers and risk takers? Young people and artists. Young people will run through that metaphorical wall and leave a person-sized outline as they go through it, and that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Most of us, we've been around the block enough times to know we're a little reluctant to do that anymore because we know it hurts. But God bless those young people, those interns, go, right? And artists, well, artists will take on authority just because they're artists. I got an interesting example here for you. This is from Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is the home of the Art Prize competition, which has been going on there for about 15 years now. So several years ago, an artist came to the Art Prize folks with this idea. It says, hey, I want to do these Chinese lanterns for Art Prize. And he says, well, you know that involves fire, right? I go, yeah, don't worry. And they showed him the design, which is actually very clever in terms of how it actually prevent fire from happening. And he says, and don't worry, we're only going to do 2,000 of them. It's like, oh, okay, that sounds reasonable. So they go to the city. City looks at the design, says, okay, 2,000, great. So they took him to the fire marshal. Fire marshal looks at the design, very clever, 2,000, great. Well, the actual night of the event, the artist showed up and they launched 20,000 of these lanterns. 2,000 is beautiful, 20,000 is spectacular, and by all accounts, one of the most memorable nights in recent history in downtown Grand Rapids. Now, I had a chance to talk with some of the leadership there in Grand Rapids about this project. I asked them about this. I said, well, officially, we might not do it again. They said, at the very least, we'd ask some different questions. Fair enough. But privately, they said it was the coolest thing ever. I'm so glad it actually happened. Again, 2,000 is beautiful. 20,000 is spectacular. Again, and 0 fires. Now, I get it's probably not going to happen in California because the last thing we want to do is launching fire into the sky here. But nonetheless, it does show a pretty good example of sometimes breaking the rules to get us a place we know we actually want to be. This one definitely breaks some rules. So this was an actual ad campaign that started a little over a year ago for Vilnius. Anybody know what country Vilnius is in? There you go, smart crowd. Yeah, Lithuania. But there, so Lithuania, the G-spot of Europe. Nobody knows where it is, but when you find it, it's amazing. Actual ad campaign, including, of course, video. That's good for breaking some rules there, and definitely cutting through all that sort of the marketing clutter that we can get sort of into our heads. But yeah, something like that. So breaking some rules. I thought that was pretty cool, and I figured a tourism audience, you would appreciate that. Yeah. How about Millennium Park in Chicago? Big, giant love note. How many folks have been to Millennium Park in Chicago? Yeah, it's amazing, right? This is Cloudgate, known locally as the Bean. The first time you approached the Bean, I bet you did this. You found your own reflection, you took your own picture. Selfie, right? You took this skyline picture, right? While you're doing that, you're seeing lots of people coming up and interacting with this art. They're touching the art, right? And they're sort of playing with it like a giant funhouse mirror. And that's essentially what it is, right? And then you looked over your shoulder and you saw these, right? Those 2 water towers. And the water towers are actually covered in video screens. So those eyes will open, it will smile at you. And then during the summer months, they have those water cannons that shoot water out onto the deck, creating what is essentially a giant above ground pool. And on a typical summer day, you will see hundreds of kids playing in that pool. Now, city making point number 1 that we'd all do very well to remember is when kids are happy, parents are happy, right? We know this, we feel this. And of course, kids love these water features. Cities, not so much, because they are kind of expensive, they always break down, and those darling children will sometimes do unspeakable things in there, and somebody has to clean that stuff up. Now, I don't have a solution to that last bit, but I did take this picture in a little town outside of Pittsburgh. This is Braddock, Pennsylvania. A few summers ago, hot summer day, little downtown park, kids are playing, and there in the corner, that is a garden hose. I believe we have a tendency to overthink the solutions to our city's problems, right? Because, the city manager's handbook says, oh, you want a splash pad? You want a water feature? Well, it's cost this much money. It's like, I don't have that much money. Well, we'll try to find the budget next year. Meantime, too bad, so sad. Well, what's wrong with going down to Home Depot, spending $20, buying a garden hose, and turning on the faucet? Nothing. In fact, there's everything right with that kind of solution. Say we're being financially responsible, we spent $20. We're being creative, and most importantly, we're responding to the wants and needs of our community. Yet too often I hear cities almost apologize for their garden hose solutions. They say, well, we wanted to do this, but budget was tight, so we had to do that. It's like, no, you should be saying, you know what? We wanted to do this, budget was tight, but we're able to do this. And you should be trumpeting this as a triumph over adversity, which is exactly what it is. Never apologize for your garden hose solutions. They show you at your very best. Again, being financially responsible, creative, most importantly, responding to the wants and needs of your community. So the next time you find yourself in that situation where you don't have all the budget that you'd like, and let's face it, when do we ever have as much budget as we'd like? Ask ourselves that question. What is the garden hose solution that, again, gets us down the road, allows us to respond to the wants and needs of our community? Play. Play is important, right? Remember I said we're in a relationship with our places? Well, think about the nature of our relationships with other people. Think about those unstructured, unplanned moments when you're hanging out with your friends and family at play. Those are the bedrock of our relationships with other people. Well, if we're in this relationship with our places, we need opportunities to play with our cities as well. And I think public art is one of those great ways where play can actually happen. So my friend Michelle and I were in Anchorage, Alaska a few winters ago. It was February. And we found this little downtown park there. These were the remnants of their holiday ice sculptures. Obviously, it's still quite cold in Anchorage in February. So Michelle goes and sits down on the caboose over there. And that little girl in yellow walked up and goes, hey, you're in my spot. So we move, and we find this. All right, city making point number 2. You want people to make that face in your city. When people make that face in your city, good things are going to happen in your city. Not only are we going to go back and tell folks, hey, we had a great time in Anchorage, Alaska. We're going to put up all kinds of fun stuff on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're going to write some positive Yelp reviews. We're going to be in a good mood, and we're probably going to spend some money. And people don't make that face in your city when you fix potholes for them. No. They make that face in your city when you surprise and delight them. Surprise and delight, like fun, don't have to cost a whole lot of money, but they do need to be seen as legitimate objectives in the work that we do. Now think about this. All of us have customers, clients, or citizens we are ultimately responsible for, right? Well, when was the last time you went into the office with the goal of today, I shall surprise and delight my clients, my customers, my fellow citizens? Probably not too often, but that's a good day to go to work. Today I shall surprise and delight, the people of Santa Monica. That's a fun day to go to work. And again, doesn't have to cost a whole lot of money. Because you know what she's sitting in? Frozen water. Frozen water, some creativity, some imagination, and thinking about the problem in a different way. Now, granted, frozen water is easier to come by in Anchorage, Alaska. Again, I hit that trigger. In Anchorage, Alaska, than it is in other places like Florida, where I live, or Southern California, certainly. But there's always something lying around that if we thought about it in a different way, we might come up with some wildly cool stuff there. So I hit the trigger a little too soon. Again, not my remote there. So I asked the question, well, what might it look like then if a city embraced this idea of surprise and delight? Well, it looks something like Greenville, South Carolina. Now, Greenville will make the argument that they are the best downtown in America, and they make a very strong case for it. This is their Main Street. It's got a fantastic tree canopy, all kinds of local restaurants, local shops there on Main Street. At the far end of this road, there's this amazing park with this waterfall in it that has this fantastic footbridge that goes across it called Falls Park. This place is so good, other cities go there to study it, right? Yet amidst all this incredibly well-done big stuff, and by big stuff, I do mean expensive stuff, the thing that surprised and delighted me in the story I tell to folks like you is actually of something very, very small. It's actually, how did I do that? What the heck happened there? It's actually the mice on Main, these little brass mice. And the story goes like 15, 16 years ago, a high school student came into the mayor's office with this idea. He goes, hey, Mr. Mayor, I want to do this scavenger hunt downtown. I want to cast these little brass mice. I want to put them downtown on Main Street and encourage people to sort of go and explore the city as they look for the mice. The mayor said, interesting. How much money do you need? The kid said like $1,200. And you bet for $1,200, the mayor said sold, right? So now they put the mice downtown, they cast them, and now you'll see people walking around downtown. So they get the maps in the restaurants and shops. Says, okay, come to this particular street corner, turn 45 degrees, and look up. Boom. And you'll hear kids and women and, yes, grown men squealing with delight once they found one of these mice. And after you found one of these mice, you're looking everywhere for these damn things. Like, oh, there's another one. And you find yourself looking at stuff you probably otherwise would not have even bothered to look at. Different set of eyes. And the mice, they're actually all very cute. They've all been given names. They've all been given a backstory. It's all been collected into this really cool children's book called The Mice on Main. That's kind of awesome. So again, amidst all this incredibly well done, big, expensive stuff, my lasting impression of this city, and I'm certain I'm not alone, is actually of something this small. So yeah, those little touches, those little embellishments that somebody's going to say, do we really need that? Isn't it kind of silly? It's like, yeah, maybe. But you know what? These are the things that do reach through and they resonate with us in a very different way. I do recognize, however, that sometimes we got to go big. The Denver Convention Center. This is a piece of public art called I See What You Mean, but of course locally known as the Big Blue Bear. Now, the Big Blue Bear is about 14, 15 years old now and has become a very beloved piece of public art. But that wasn't necessarily always the case. And can you imagine the first time that artist came into city council with that idea? It says, hey, I got an idea. I want to do this statue. It's going to be of a bear. It's going to be really, really big. And oh, by the way, it's going to be blue. I suppose that conversation goes over the first time the powers would be here. Seriously? Do you know how many potholes we could fix for the cost of that ridiculous bear? And therein lies your challenge. Yeah, the bear has a cost. And if you're one of those people who sees the world through that lens, if everything is about the cost of things, the pure financial accounting of things, then yeah, you can always justify not doing something by saying, you know what, we could always fix more potholes, which again is technically true. But in addition to having a cost, the bear has a value. And to me, the value of the Big Blue Bear is once you've seen the Big Blue Bear, you cannot unsee the Big Blue Bear. You will always remember it and you will always associate it with Denver, right? And think about how many photographs are taken of this thing every day. Hundreds, thousands. And every one of those photos that goes out there onto the internet, social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, every one of those is a smile, is a postcard, is a love note from the city of Denver. That absolutely has value. You know, there's lots of people who want to hold elected officials and cities' feet to the fire about spending public dollars. And they're always obsessed with the cost of things. The cost. Well, it seems like those people who know the cost of everything, they don't seem to understand the value of anything, because things have a value beyond the purely financial. And if we want to live in the type of community that has room for things like beauty, art, great design, and big blue bears, well, we need to speak up and we need to fight for this kind of stuff. And this is an argument we can win. So the next time we're having this discussion, say, fine, let's talk about the cost. But then let's also talk about the value. And remember, things have a value beyond the purely financial. And if folks really want to get snippy about this, well, then let's talk about the cost of ugly. Let's talk about the cost of boring, because you bet those things have a cost. And I guarantee you that those folks who are obsessed with the cost of everything have never thought about it in those particular terms. It's an argument we can win. It's an argument we need to win if we're going to build the type of communities, the type of cities that I believe all of us actually do want to live in and visit as well. The ultimate, though, in terms of lovable cities are, of course, its people. The people that are desperately, passionately in love with their cities, who will oftentimes go above and beyond ordinary levels of citizenship and sometimes do amazing things for their places, not because they're paid to, but this is how they roll, how their sense of community, how their sense of creativity manifests in amazing ways. I call these folks the co-creators, because they're essentially co-creating the experience of the city along with many of you, whose job it is to create the content that is Santa Monica, right? But then there are these unofficial folks, not paid to do it, but we know how important they actually are to our communities, like my friend Bob Devin Jones here. Now, Bob is the creative director of a small black box theater in downtown St. Petersburg, Florida, where I live. And for those of us who live in St. Pete, we know how important Bob is to making St. Pete a great place to live, work, and play. But he doesn't show up on any city org chart. He's not one of the most powerful, most influential business people. No. But again, we know how important Bob is to our community. And every one of you probably knows Santa Monica's versions of Bob Devin Jones. Some of you actually are Santa Monica's version of Bob Devin Jones. And that's great. We love that. But the fact that we know you and we see you around town, and I run into Bob at the coffee shop all the time, there's this notion out there that people say, that's just Bob being Bob. No, I got to tell you, Bob being Bob is extraordinary, and we need more of that, because Bob does not see the problem the same way that the official folks do. And consequently, his solutions are going to be very different than the ones the official folks can or are even able to come up with, and we need that. Cities, we get the big stuff mostly right. Where we have this real opportunity is in this little stuff, the kind of stuff that oftentimes percolates from the ground up there. So that's when it gets really interesting. Good top down meets interesting bottom up, meets in the middle. That's when you know you got something really interesting going on. In love with their city, Rafael Lunetta, who I met last night. He's in the back of the room there as well. Now, we don't necessarily think about restaurateurs and chefs as being placemakers, but clearly they are, because this becomes the impression that we have of a place. It's what did we eat? Where did we go? What did we see? And those restaurant experiences are incredibly important. And I have to say, in all fairness, I had 2 great meals yesterday. I ate at lunch at the Lobster. So folks from the Lobster, thank you very much. That was an awesome experience as well. So again, we tend to think about stuff like, the pier and the park and all that. Yeah, of course. But sometimes it's the people who create those unique experiences there. And so we need to, and I'm glad that we are celebrating these folks and recognize how important they are. But then, for every surfing chef like Rafael, there's probably 100 more who, if we give them a chance and a little bit of impetus and a little bit of, encouragement, we might find some amazing things that come out of the woodwork when they get in the game and decide they want to be part of the process. But these folks absolutely do matter, co-creators. Like Candy Chang. She's an artist from New Orleans. And after Hurricane Katrina, she did a number of amazing projects. But I think my favorite was probably the simplest one she actually did. She made a stencil that says, "It's good to be here," right? And she used spray chalk, not spray paint. And she started spray chalking that message all over, New Orleans. Now think about that message, "It's good to be here," in the context of New Orleans, a city that people thought they had lost. It's like, wow, it is good to be here. And when folks started seeing that message over and over and over again, that is powerful. That is incredibly reinforcing. Cities and tourism boards will spend lots of money on internal branding campaigns and self-confidence campaigns, and that's good, money well spent, but sometimes you get lucky. And along comes somebody who loves their city in a really simple but beautiful way, does something so eloquent you could almost weep. It's good to be here. And what did this cost? Maybe $50, a stencil, a can of spray chalk. Most of our organizations can't open up a computer file on a project for $50, let alone actually delivering something. So how cool would it be to add something like this to the mix of the good big stuff that we're already working on? Yeah, that would be really cool. Now, I added this one yesterday because after having the experience of going to the top of your Ferris wheel, it got me thinking about someone who I'd met a few years ago in Australia. This is Chloe. I met Chloe in 2014 in a city called Port Macquarie, which is a couple hours north of Sydney. Now, this part of Port McCrory had incredibly wide beaches there. And so when I was looking at those beaches and with some folks who gave me the tour, and says, oh, you got to meet this woman who's doing these amazing sand art there in Port McCrory. And she said she's been doing it for about 6 months now there. So I met Chloe. And Chloe told me that she was always been an artist and always sort of creative, but she just, for whatever reason, decided one day to go out and start sort of doodling, as it were, on the beach with a rake. There. And she started producing stuff like this almost from the very beginning. I said, Chloe, you are a sand savant, because most of us, I would go out there, I would just make a mess. But this is the kind of artwork she's producing almost from the very beginning. Absolutely stunning. So I said to the leadership there in Port McCrory, I says, you know what, you need to work with this girl, because you know what, that could be the cover of your next brochure when you're marketing that city. So there's talent like this in every city. And most of these folks don't even necessarily even realize it, or they don't think it has an application to maybe what we're trying to achieve. But maybe if we start looking for those folks and trying to celebrate them, it's like, wait a minute, you've got a different talent, a different perspective, a different way of looking at this. Let's bring them into the process there as well. And certainly the fact that you've got some really wide beaches here, I bet somebody could make some really cool art that way. I bet you guys already do some stuff like that. But maybe that's another way to sort of find another perspective on all of this in terms of finding some other talent and, again, a different way of looking and loving the city. Now, I bet if we went and talked with the city's public works team and asked them about this stuff, they go, oh yeah, super hydrophobic coating, we've known about that for years. But they never thought to do something like that with it. And that is sort of the genius of what the co-creators bring to the table. They don't see the problems the same way, they don't see the resources in the same way. And consequently, their solutions can be very different than the ones we can come up with. We need this stuff. We need folks like Peregrine and Bob Devon there and Raphael, because they're like the spice in what makes for a great dish. You don't have to have a lot of spice to make for a flavorful dish, but you gotta have some, otherwise it's a bland dish. Well, every community needs some spicy people as well, otherwise bland community. And clearly this is a very spicy community here, and so I think you guys have a lot to be proud of. And I think the real challenge here is not to continue to do the great stuff. You're already killing it. You're already doing great stuff here. I think it's to add another lens to all of this. You guys are having a more elevated conversation and thinking and acting about your city, and the way you even approach talking about the city, the way you approach marketing, the way you approach bringing people here and inviting them in to your backyard, into your home, as it were. This is an important conversation. You know, when we travel, oftentimes this is the first step of a love affair, right? All of us have gone to a place and fallen in love with it. Isn't that really what we're all trying to do? And of course, you want people to come here and fall in love with Santa Monica. Maybe they come here again and again. Maybe they move here. Maybe they start a business here. Maybe that's kind of the key, is to think about this relationship. Again, you guys are doing the big stuff really, really right. And I think the only way that a city as good as you guys are, as elevated as you guys are, the only way you're going to get better at this is to keep challenging yourself to add more ways to think about this stuff. And I think adding this emotional lens to the process and adding this small stuff into the mix, I think is maybe the way to go. So I want to finish with a couple of closing thoughts here for you. One is this: tourists like what locals think is cool. If you build a great city for locals, you're building a great city for tourists as well. And I know this sometimes gets lost in all this because we get very outwardly facing and we're paying a lot of attention to these folks, as we should. But at heart, are we not really making this place really better for ourselves? It is in our enlightened self-interest to continue to do that. And just to occasionally remind ourselves that, yeah, of course we want the tourists to come, but at heart, I wanted to build it for me. I want to go there. I want to eat there. I want to shop there. I want to have that experience. Tourists like what locals think is cool. Second is this. And I observed this yesterday as I'm coming around here, and I'm hearing about all the things that have started here and had their roots here, is I think in many ways you are the heart, the epicenter of Southern California culture. Think about how much stuff has started here. From, of course, I talked about the fitness movement, beach volleyball, food trends, restaurants, beach life, culture, all of that. I think there's really something to be said for that. And I know you guys, I was talking with Misty about this. She goes, oh yeah, we're talking about this stuff. Says, but as somebody from the outside, maybe I'm not hearing it, or maybe I'm not listening to the right channels, but hopefully, more of that. Because so much of what is cool, and when we as an outsider, when I think about California, it's this. It's what you guys have here in great, great abundance. There. So maybe finding a way to challenge yourselves. How do we tell that story about the California experience? Because it really has its origins right here. And last, this one has become sort of personally important to me in the last year or so, is to remind myself is to do small things with great love. You know, oftentimes we don't have the budget to do big things or to do them as well as we'd like to, or even when we'd like to. But oftentimes we can do a small thing. And when we do a small thing, let us do it really, really well. Let us do it with great love and affection, because that stuff, it does show. When it comes out on the other side, we go, yeah, that felt really good. That restaurant was so great. That hotel, oh, the beach was so magnificent. Yeah, those little things, they do matter. So when we do these small things, and we can always do something small in addition to all the stuff that we're already doing, well, let's do them with great love and affection. Again, you guys are clearly killing it here. You're doing a great job. I think to take it to that next level, it's going to take a different lens, a different way of thinking about the city. You know, we talk about building cities that are livable, walkable, sustainable. Those are good goals. But I think the goal should be set even higher. Let us create cities that are lovable, the kind of places that grab you by the heart and refuse to let you go. It's the kind of city I want to live in. It's the kind of city I know you want to live in. That's the kind of city that has to be built in a very different way. And it starts when all of us start thinking about this stuff in a different way and working together to create, let's do something that makes it not only good and functional, let's make it really fun and lovable. And clearly you guys are doing something really, really well here. And you should be very proud of yourselves for that. Keep up the great work. And thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And I don't know about all of you, but I just get more excited. I do love this community, and I think that all of us in this room feel that way, and you've made us look at it through a different lens for sure today. So thank you very, very much. And a shout out to Rick. I had the pleasure of meeting Peter a few years ago, and Rick reminded me of him when you first started working here, and it took us a while, but thank you for the recommendation, and we hope to have you back again. I know that we can do this here in this community and brainstorm a vision that will take Santa Monica and the experience that we offer well into the future. This evening's celebration would not be possible without the generous contributions from our sponsors. You know I got to do the thank yous, right? I also want to, the backbone of my existence, my team, I don't know where you all are, but those of you that are here, please stand up. Brian, Todd, Evan, you are all amazing. We could never do it without you. The care and the love you put into your jobs is so appreciated. Thank you all. And before I wrap everything up, we're really proud to share that my team made yet another dream of mine come true. And we officially launched Santa Monica Cares. It's a coalition dedicated to harnessing the hospitable nature and generosity of our tourism industry. And we're going to be working to support other local nonprofits in the community. And get out those 80s gowns and tuxes, because we have our first fundraiser coming up on July 27th at the Women's Club. You can buy tickets at Santa Monica Cares. Most of the money raised is going to, again, local nonprofit agencies, and we encourage you to get involved and have some fun with us. As you make your way over to the reception, please be sure to stop here in the back right-hand corner of the area at the marketplace. We have the leadership from all of our business improvement districts, our staff waiting to share with you what's going on, and quite bluntly, to help get more business directly to your doors. And Peter will be here selling some of his books in the back and signing them if you're interested. And after you chat with them, I invite you to all come over and create your own Santa Monica experience right here on the sand, as we enjoy the sounds of another crowd-pleasing crew. And with that, we're going to wrap up our 10th Annual Tourism Summit. Thank you all very, very much.